If you didn't go through, you couldn't understand. That's it. If, for example, an assessment says to the dog, you mensch, bite that dog, and the dog goes up to that fellow and he pets him. The fellow was petting the dog, an Alsatian. He thought the dog turned over, you know what I mean? And when the dog got up, he took out his pistol and shoot the dog. And he called out the chef from the kitchen to take the dog in and feed the dog to the people. That's exactly what he did.
How can you feel? Of course you feel bad. The Germans done bad things to me. They kill all my family. They put me in the concentration camp. How I can feel good about Germans? Nobody would have.
I really hated them. I couldn't believe that an educated and cultivated country like that was able to do the things that they did. And I still don't.
I am disturbed still by them. For example, when I went first to Germany, I only have been there a day or two. I had to meet my solicitor. I didn't see them the way they are. I saw suddenly every German in an SS uniform.
Doesn't make any, wherever you tell somebody, oh, I understand, they don't understand.
What I discovered is that all our lives were protected, hidden by civilization. But when you came to a place that you became naked, spiritually, physically, emotionally, intellectually, then the self-defense of civilization, good manners.
I regret that I can't forget, but I will never forget nor forgive as long as I live. And that's true.
I remember in '43 we heard that thousands of Jews are being killed. Then the number increased to 10,000 were being killed. Then it increased to 100,000, which as a kid are the unimaginable figures. It's only when the Allies crossed the Rhine River, later on in '44, that news came out that millions had been killed, millions. Now, people didn't understand. Million, how much is million?
It almost seems unreal, actually, what happened to me as a child. Because it just doesn't seem that something like that can happen to a people just because of their religion.
How was it possible that decent people, righteous people, like Germans, were capable of such a evil? And how was it possible that 6 million people were murdered, slaughtered?
It was interesting that the kids I played with very often called me nasty names. But I kept playing with them. It was, I don't know, I can't explain it.
Because I was singing in Auschwitz. I made my living. I was getting bread for that, soap, and that's maybe the way it was still alive.
My father had 9 offers to take me.
from very high-ranking officials, because they knew the war was already going to end, and they were afraid they'll be called collaborators after the war. They can say, we are the good people.
As soon as the war ended, all of a sudden, the Red Cross, which had remained totally non-participating, unhelpful, did not lift a finger, a positive finger, for you suddenly decided to be part of the Allied victory.
Deep down, there is a mistrust. I always think, what did you do during the war? What did your parents do during the war? You can't avoid it. It's there because not everybody was a Nazi, but everybody joined the Nazis because they were afraid themselves. Nobody stood up and said, we are against Nazis. They were afraid for themselves. But it doesn't mean that's an excuse.
When I was working in JewishCareVic, I was working in the kitchen. And during the night, 2 o'clock, I had to give these posts some coffee. And the post came down from there for him to give the coffee. And he always had something for me, a German. He always had something for me, an apple or a banana. He always had something for me, but not the Poles. Until today, maybe I'm sorry now, I told my kids and everybody, don't go to Poland and don't leave a dollar in Poland.
After the war, I was humbled by the privilege of nominating 2 people as righteous among the nations. One was the Polish woman that saved Marussia, and the other one was the German, Rosner, who saved not only few people, but the life of the ghetto. And these were 2 people which prevented me from generalizing the Germans were evil and all the Poles were anti-Semite. I believed in the saying, if you save one life, it is as if you have saved a whole mankind.
On the basis that immediately post-war, we held high hopes that the world would have learned of what happened and the world will change and the world will be more amenable to recognize each other's right to exist, each other's right to make a decent living, each other's right not to be hungry or sick. So these were the ideals which we formulated immediately after the war, which of course have been severely abused and denied.
Before the war, the 30s that you hear in the news about Hitler. That now, 70 years later, you have the Muslim. Yes, what they want, cut their head.
I'm really quite upset at the moment because there's all this anti-Semitism and it's very worrying.
Just the hatred that is being developed and growing at an enormous, I don't think we are able to understand. Well, hatred is growing because it's totally abstract. It's not something you can touch, but it is growing at an exponential rate.
I got asked, do I hate Germans? I said, no, I don't hate Germans. Because the Germans that did what they did do to my family and to our people, they're a particular German and they no longer exist, or very, very few of them exist. And I don't believe in the sons carrying the guilt of their fathers.
I don't hate them. I feel that now perhaps the new generation have changed and are different.
People which destroyed 6 million of our brothers and sisters, now the only friend in Europe. So I can't understand what's happening.
My husband was unable to talk about it for many years. He just couldn't talk about it. And one day I asked him, why can't you tell the children, why can't you talk? And he said, because I feel humiliated that I allowed this to happen to me.
What we have survived in our life will only be a carbon copy 10 times over of what is going to happen in the future.
For me, I'm old, of course, for the future generation. You never know what can happen.
At least my life wasn't wasted, and it'll continue with all the good things to make up for the generations that went. My son took his own march of the living, and he went to our town, to Nashel's, and I told him to go to the cemetery. Nothing. None, he said. The house was demolished. He found one lady of 83, and she showed him the house we lived in. That's all there was.
When I see my grandchildren, they are my vengeance. And one day I said, when I see my grandchildren and I think of the Germans, I think of this. You can cut that out.